that was, like, looking back on it for Brittany and I's relationship, it was actually really great for us to continue to grow in friendship before we moved into what a dating relationship looks like. Do you want to pick it up from here, Brittany, or do you want me to keep going? I don't know. She just, gave me the microphone, so here you go.
Yeah, so basically, from my perspective, it was the same feeling. I was back in Texas when he was at college, and it was kind of the same thing where it's like, I'm kind of thinking about this person more than I thought I would. And so it's like I missed him more than I should. And then we didn't really communicate much. Like, we would hang out when he'd come back for like college breaks, or like we would like occasionally Snapchat, but like Snapchats that you could send to like a whole group of people that never really felt like super like exclusive. And so Chris was great. He's like, hey, Brittany, you want to get tea? Because I couldn't drink coffee. And I was like, wow, that was so thoughtful. And then we had never hung out one-on-one before. So I was like, this is kind of weird. Either he's going to tell me he doesn't like me, or he's going to be like, hey, I like you. And I was like, I hope he likes me. And so then he told me, and it's like, hey, I like you, but I think we should still be friends. And I was like, that's so good. And so I was like, yeah, I like you too. I totally agree. So we were like, sweet. He goes back to college. I'm still in Fort Worth. And then 6 months passed, and like, it was just like, I got an occasional Snapchat. Like, we'd randomly be like, hey, I finished like a 5'11" or something climbing, and we'd be like celebrating. And so nothing was like super like communicative, and I was like, I thought we were like gonna be friends, like I thought we were gonna talk, you know? And he was like, this is what it's like being friends with a girl. And I was like, okay, we have different definitions of that. And then so summer comes along, and he's back home for a few weeks, and like nothing's happened. And I was like, I don't even think he likes me anymore. Like, we're just friends. Like, that's okay. But then I was like, but we need to talk about this. So I was like, hey, Keegan, you want to get coffee? Because he drinks coffee. And so we went to a coffee shop, and then I was like, how's it going? Like, how we doing? You know, you still got those feelings we talked about. And so I just was like, we need to do this because I feel like I'm walking in eggshells, so we just need to communicate about this. And we have a sign. We're gonna hear this a lot. Yes. So we talked, and he was like, "No, I still like you." And I was like, "Cool." Yeah. And so then basically we were like, "Good talk. We still like each other." And then a week later, he met me at the climbing gym that I worked at in Hull.
Yeah, so I was waiting on the Lord, as they say, you know, and while I was waiting on the Lord, I was not communicating at all that I was waiting on the Lord, which was a very bad idea on my part, and it worked out fine. Thank goodness that Brittany asked me to coffee. But yeah, I was really wanting the Lord. The main theme in Brittany and I's relationship was I want the Lord to be the reason for it and the center of it, and I didn't want to do anything without the Lord telling me that it was time to do it. And so I was waiting, and then the Lord told me while I was driving home from work one day, he's like, it's time. I was like, wow, really? Great. And he was like, I know he's going to know what it's time means, because it was very vague, but I knew what it meant, because that's all I was thinking about. And so I was like, all right, sweet. So I made a plan, and it was, if you guys want to know the plan, you can ask us later, all right? Because it was very cute, but I'm not going to go into it because it was a long story. But I asked her out, and she said yes. Woohoo! Way to go, Keegan! Yeah. And then we'll talk more about a little bit of our other stories as we go. But I think we should get to questions now.
Yeah, I wanted to preface before we get started that I sent an email to Wesley to forward to your parents, but I think he was crossing a border. So I don't think that happened. So, but your parents will be getting an email at some point just explaining what we're talking about. Because this is, maybe a sensitive subject. And it's at least a very personal subject. And something that parents have specific ideas about dating, about relationships, and how that should go. You know, we have everything from to one extreme of we only should court, you never should date. It's basically betrothal and straight into marriage, all the way down to you should date whoever you want to, super free. And the honest truth is there's not very specific direction in the Bible about dating itself. Now, about relationships, yes. About honor, about all of that, for sure. But we're going to share tonight some of our opinions, and that's what they are. They're opinions. We're also going to share biblical truths. So we're going to share both tonight, and we'll try to remember to clarify when we're sharing opinions and we're sharing biblical truth. But I want to give this preface to say, please talk to your parents about this, because we're not here to tell you the way dating should go. That's really in the hands of you and your parents. That's between you and your parents in terms of how it actually is walked out, more specifically. We just want to, honestly, a big part of it is get the conversation going about dating, relationships, sex, all of that with your parents. If they have not initiated, it's okay for you to, in honor, go to them and ask them. To ask them questions that you have about all that. So we'll talk about that more, but I just kind of wanted to set that up of we are going to be sharing our opinions, and that's what they are, is opinions. We're not sharing, not everything that we share tonight will be, this is the way it should be. Okay. Here we go.
Okay, number one, what should boundaries look like when being friends with the opposite gender, especially if they're dating somebody else?
Yeah, this is a great question, and there's a couple of things to this. One, I think honor is a really big theme in this. Honoring the people who are, so if you're not in the dating relationship and you're friends with both of the people who are, honoring both of those people. Because, I mean, what they're comfortable with, and if you're in the dating relationship and you have friends that are not, honoring them, talking to them, communication, that's one of the biggest things is communication. But then this is one of the places where we're going to share our opinion, and this is kind of my opinion. It's something that I've seen work in my life and in other friends' lives that I have. But specifically with our generation and texting, I think that's such a big thing. For a lot of us here, some people might think differently about this, and that's okay. But we would say it's probably not a great idea to be in a room alone talking to someone who is in a dating relationship of the opposite gender. It's probably not a great idea. It's probably not wise to do that. You probably shouldn't do that. However, when we think about texting, we're it's just texting. It's fine. But texting, DMing, Snapchatting, people alone without anyone else in a group chat or in a group Snapchat, that is essentially being in a room alone with someone because you're sharing emotions, you're sharing your heart with them. And for me, in my own relationship, that was a boundary that I set. I'm not going to text any girls outside of my relationship. Now, obviously, it's you're in school, you have a job, you need to text a girl and be like, hey, can you pick this up or whatever. Don't freak out about that. It's okay. But for me, that's things that I've seen that have worked in keeping boundaries. And you've got a little bit to share about that too.
Yeah, I think as far as talking about what are boundaries, especially with someone who's in a relationship, I think it's fair to say that when you're in a relationship with someone, your friendships are going to look different. And I think that's important. And I think it's important to know as that person's friend and the person in a relationship, right? Because it's well, I'm in a relationship now, so this person is going to be taking some more of my attention, right? And that's kind of the point of a dating relationship is you're we have a relationship that is different than a friendship, right? It's building something a little bit more intimate. And so I would say one, as a friend to that person who's in a relationship, your friendship and your attention and what things used to look like with them might change. And that's good and that's okay. And the person that's in a relationship should acknowledge that it looks different. And I think that might be if you're really close, say you grew up with someone and then they started dating someone else and you're we used to share our hearts, this used to be such a good friendship for me, and you're but now you're dating this girl, and like I just feel like we aren't friends anymore. It's like it's important to know that that's gotta look different, right? Because they're sharing a specific part of their life with that person, and there's gotta be boundaries to keep that relationship healthy, right? And so I think understanding that, giving them grace for that, and also the other person in the relationship should respect it. So, yeah.
Next question.
All right, you all mentioned including family in dating relationships. I feel like this adds a lot of pressure on the relationship because the family is invested in it too. What happens if the relationship doesn't work out, possibly a messy breakup? Do the families cut ties with one another because their children don't get married?
This is a big question. No. I feel like I'll let you guys know. We just know Yes. Yeah. Alright, bringing it back in. I feel like this question obviously is very multifaceted, like there's a lot to it. But I think like one thing that you can do if you're in that relationship and you're like, I really care about their family and I really want to like invite them into my family, but I don't want it to be crazy. Like just with your family in particular, voicing like where you're at. Like going into that relationship and being like, hey mom, I know you love this guy and you're really excited that we're dating, but I also just want to let you know that like I'm not there yet. Like I'm still getting to know him. I'm speaking from a girl's perspective, obviously. But like I'm still getting to know him. I'm still trying to figure out if I want to commit to like a long-term relationship. Like I just want to say that so that like you guys don't get your hopes up. Because I know that like in a Christian culture, it's really easy for people to be like, you're gonna get married. It's gonna be so cute. Your babies are gonna be adorable. And it's like, okay. And so it's like just voicing that to the people in your life that are speaking into it, I think, is one thing.
It's huge.
I think too, there was something else that I thought. Well, just that the value of including family, the value of including parents and honoring your parents in that. Not just honoring your parents, but bringing them into the equation so that they can help. You know, like they've done this before. They may not have done it perfectly, you know, but they've done this before. They at least have some experience to offer. And then the long term, you're going to be with your parents. You're going to be related to your parents for sure. You don't know about that person that you're interested in dating. You may or may not be related to them later, but you're for sure going to be related to your parents 20 years, 30 years down the road. So don't blow that relationship by excluding them from this conversation.
Yeah.
But I also want to just say it really can work. Like even fully invested. Like Abby, our daughter, dated Seth Fagan, who's not here tonight.
For like a year and
Yeah, and they were serious. It was a serious relationship, and they broke up. And it wasn't easy, obviously, because they, had been dating for quite a while. And I'm still good friends with Seth. I consider him a good friend. He's in our microchurch. I love Wesley, of course. I love Rachel and Tom and Linda, and we still have a relationship with their whole family. And
but it can be done.
it can be done.
It's not a piece of cake, but it can be done.
Yeah, it wasn't easy, and it required something. It did require communication. Like, I remember having a talk with Seth Fagan after they broke up or in the process. Went to coffee with him and talked through his heart about it all, and it can be done. We just have to communicate, okay? Next question.
How do you politely reject someone?
This is a short answer. The short answer is be honest and kind. And just say, I'm not interested, but thank you. Like, you don't have to, like, you can be, even keeping it short probably is less painful, as long as you're kind. Like, no, I don't think so. I mean, like, I don't mean like that. Thank you, but I'm not interested. You know, just kindness.
What about directly asking out, but just like floating a little bit? So if like you can't be like, no, thank you.
Oh.
Actually, or the like I have a boyfriend kind of thing. Like, how do you just like slide it in there even though they're not like, well, can you be my girlfriend? Like, if they're not saying that explicitly, how do you like tell them?
Yeah.
You don't want to lie.
Right.
Yeah, submit that question next time, we'll answer it.
Don't worry, I can answer that real quick. I think that part of it comes down to if you have now this isn't for everybody, this isn't for every situation, but if you have good boundaries set in place, then getting into those situations is a lot harder. Where you're like able to be flirted with a lot, or able to be like have a situation where you can accidentally lead someone on. So setting good boundaries before is great, and then also it's just like it's going to be so much better in most situations if you just say, if you think that they're like kind of trying to get close to you, and you're like, hey, just so you know, like, I'm not really looking for anyone. If you're not in a relationship, where you're like, hey, I'm in a relationship right now, just so you know. And then maybe they're like, whoa, I wasn't even trying to date you, and that's either them actually saying they weren't trying to date you, or they're just embarrassed and they're trying to make you feel embarrassed, and you don't need to be embarrassed. That's okay.
And you can preface that with, hey, I may be totally reading you wrong, and I apologize.
That's great.
But I just want to let you know I'm not interested in a relationship right now.
Tell them, I know what you're doing. Stop.
Be careful. Be careful. It's saying, I'm not interested in a relationship right now. If you're actually interested in a relationship, it does not with that person.
Yeah.
Like, just say, I'm not really interested in a relationship between us right now. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's why I need to be honest. Be honest with yourself. Please be honest with yourself. And don't change it to make somebody feel better. Yeah.
I just wanted to say, I think also in a public situation, your body language makes a big difference as far as like how they receive it. So if you give them attention, even if it's only to you to wait a little longer to like then add something else, it's like you're still kind of feeding their intentions.
That's really good, and I think asking for feedback from a trusted friend, especially a brother or sister, is good. Hey, am I doing something that's leading someone on?
Yeah.
Because you may not even know. Like you may be the person leading someone else on, and you don't even know. And that's fair. That's an honest thing. Thanks for bringing that up. All right, next question.
All right. How long should people wait to say "I love you" or kiss? Ooh, two very
What a question. I don't know. So when I read this question, I was thinking about like, I say I love you to like everyone I know. You know, like I literally I just met you and I love you. You know what I mean? But I guess in a relationship context, a lot of us are like, oh, like the big 3 words, like I love you. You know, and so it's like we kind of like make them more than they honestly like need to be, because I feel like oftentimes it's like, what do you mean when you're saying those words, right? It's like, do you mean like I love you and I'm committing to you forever? Like, you know, it's like, oh my gosh, they said they love me. It's like they're gonna marry me. You know, it's like that's not what that means. I love you means I care for you, that like I have affection for you, that and it can mean like I will love you unconditionally, but it doesn't mean I'm committing to you forever. And so I think like once again, it's like you can say I love you whenever you feel it or you mean it, you know? And I don't think it's something to be overthought personally. I know some people it does mean a lot more to them, like it does feel like a commitment type thing. So I think that it's like knowing the person in your relationship and like even saying like what this means to you. You're like, I really care about you, like I love you. You know, like just communicating what that means. Because really like we're Christians and we love everyone, but it does feel different in a relationship. So
Yeah, that's good. And for like I love you and kissing, I feel like those are two, they're a little different. One thing that I would say is kind of going back to Brittany and I's story. I feel like we lived out a lot of seasons, and we did not live them out perfectly. But one of the biggest themes is seasons and how important seasons are and the length that they're going to last. So for us, Brittany and I, even though we liked each other, we both admitted it, we talked about it. It's like people that are not Christians, or they're just like, why would you do that? Why would you not date each other if you said you liked each other? But that's a big thing with the Lord, is walking out the season that you're in. So for Brittany and I, we walked out a season of friendship where we were just friends. There was no flirting and dating. There was like, we were friends. And then we started dating. And for Brittany and I, a lot of it was kind of figuring it out by making some mistakes and moving into a season before it was time. And so for us, one of those seasons was kissing. We kissed each other, and we were like, okay, yeah, like that was not exactly where the Lord wanted us to be. So taking a step back, and it's like kissing is one of those things that is, I think, sometimes blown out of proportion. You can take a step back from that and be like, hey, let's just wait a second. So for Brittany and I, we were like, I don't feel like our relationship is where it needs to be right now. We were on the verge of like, should we even continue dating right now? Do we need to take a break? And the Lord was just like, just start worshiping a little bit. So we were worshiping together, and the Lord spoke to me. And he was like, what if you and Brittany just didn't kiss until you got married? And this was like, we didn't know we were going to get married. We liked each other, but we were like, yes, we're getting married next year. And then the Lord talked to Brittany, and he was like, what if you guys didn't kiss until you got married? And so we came back together, and we were like, so this is kind of interesting, but I feel like the Lord is telling us to not kiss before we get married. And Brittany was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. That's what the Lord told me. And right then, it was like the Lord just kind of snapped into place a boundary that he set for us, which is so much easier to follow than a boundary that you set for yourself or that your parents set for you. Seek the Lord on your boundaries, because the ones that he gives you are going to be a lot easier to follow than the ones that you try to force on yourself or give yourself. Obviously, follow your parents' boundaries, that's not what I'm saying, but really seek the Lord in your boundaries. And that was something that was huge for Brittany and I. But kissing is one of those things that it's like, it's not how far you can go in your relationship. It's seek the Lord, get close to the Lord. How close can you get to the Lord, not how far can you go with your girlfriend or boyfriend. And for me, it's like, kissing is an amazing thing, but you don't need it in a relationship to grow to the point where you can get married. For Brittany and I, we did kiss, but then it was like, hold on, we need to take a step back. And we didn't kiss until we got married, which was really funny because we kissed in front of a bunch of people. That was the next time that we kissed. And she was like, I don't know if I'm going to remember how to do it.
You don't need practice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's like one of the things that I feel like some people talk about. So they're like, oh, you want to make sure that you know how to kiss before you're wedding. No, you don't. You don't need to do that. But yeah, am I missing?
Yeah, no, I think so.
Okay.
I was going to say, in terms of setting boundaries and moving forward and backward, it's like they moved back from that boundary in a moment, actually. In the midst of a moment, they pulled back, which is awesome. That's great. But what I want to encourage you guys in is, let's say you start dating and you're like, I feel like we're just supposed to be friends. But then you're in this romantic moment with your boyfriend or girlfriend, and you're like, I kind of feel like we're supposed to start holding hands, or whatever. And so in that moment, even though you have set a boundary for yourself maybe, or you've talked with your parents and you've set a boundary, and you move forward in that boundary in a moment, in the midst of a moment. You're really trying to correct me here, aren't you? In the midst of a moment. Yes. I know what you're saying. You're in kind of this romantic moment, and you choose to move forward in that time. I just want to encourage you guys, step outside of that romantic moment when you're making those decisions, and move forward based on what the Lord. And I love what Keegan is saying. When the Lord speaks to you about your boundaries, it just is so much easier because you're following something rather than just not doing something. You're actually pursuing the Lord. You're just rather than choosing to not do something.
So you said step outside the boundaries.
Step outside the moment to decide what you. I may have said it. Apparently, I'm saying some horrible thing right now. Okay. Step outside of that romantic moment to choose what your boundaries need to be.
Well, I feel like a common question I have was, what if you don't bring your parents into it, but you bring someone from the church? Like, is that a different thing, or is it?
No, it's like the same. It's that it doesn't work for you to have your parents with helping you with setting boundaries. The Lord, like I said the last time, the Lord totally provides. So He can provide any other kind of a mentor or accountability partner. It's great for you. Like if you're a guy, you need another guy that you're talking to about this relationship, you know, and saying if you're a girl, you need another girl that you're talking. Don't just be talking about your relationship to the person you're having a relationship with. Okay, it's a blind spot there. So you do need other voices of wisdom, good voices in your life. Okay, whether it can look different in different seasons.
But
It's like, what if you like don't want to risk like, you know, like the two families move, but they don't work out, and then the two families split apart, and instead of that possibly happening, cut like that, but you just cut it and run it through the scene and just make sure that that never really happens. Like bringing someone else into it that knows has like maybe possibly been through this already, or can help you through it, like in the church.
yeah, I definitely think that you can bring other mentors into it, but the Bible is really specific about honoring your father and mother. And if your mom and dad are saying, I don't think this relationship is right,
Or you're hiding it from them because you don't think that they'll think it's right, or you don't want to get them involved for whatever reason, it's not going to go well with you. It's just, you're not going to be blessed in it. You're not going to be covered.
now, I understand in the world there are issues where you can't get a parent involved because they're actually telling you to do something that is grossly against what the Bible says. And obviously in that kind of a case where it's like, you really should be going out and having sex with your boyfriend or girlfriend, you know? Like, obviously if that's happening, then no. You can honor your parents in that, but you don't do what they say. You honor them and you respect them and you love them, but you definitely need a mentor in your life if you know something like that's happened. If you've got someone who's in authority over you that's telling you something that is obviously against what the Bible says. So
You have to kind of split basically.
yeah,
You can't show it to people.
Yeah.
that's a great way to say it. Yep.
So, you were saying getting someone to scream the Lord, but what if you actually do like someone, like someone who is struggling, what if you
Actually, that is a question.
Yeah, I think we might get to that actually. Yeah. If not, ask it next time. or if we have time at the end.
Okay, how do you keep your standards high, even when really liking someone that doesn't exactly mean that?
Kind of like. Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, how do you keep your standards high, even when really liking someone that doesn't exactly mean that? Keep your standards.
It's almost the same question.
Maybe lower your standards. Like not that like super low, but like don't turn it off.
Here we go.
All right.
Yeah, I think like, I mean, I've been a teenager before, you know, and it wasn't that long ago. But I think like one thing that was especially hard in that season of my life was like letting my feelings rule my decisions. Like I was chasing after like what felt right in my life and what was like fun and like what was good and like good to me, right? And so it's like there's that person who's like perfect or like on the football team or they're on the cheerleading spot. That's so typical, yeah, stereotypical, but you get the point. Like, there's that person, they're like so funny and they're like hilarious and like they make you feel good and you're like, oh my gosh, I really like this person. But they, one, don't follow the Lord, don't honor their parents, like say things that are crude, like, you know, make people uncomfortable, like don't really honor people around them, like, or really anything that is just like not a standard that you hold, right, in your life. I think that you shouldn't follow that feeling, you know, so it's like the question is, how do you keep your standards high even when really liking someone that doesn't meet them? By not following your feelings. Because you have standards, and just because you date that person doesn't mean they're gonna become the person that is your standard, you know? So it's like, they're the same person before you start dating them as they are when you start dating them. Oftentimes, once the feelings actually fade, they're a worse person than you thought they were. I can say that from like, even being in a relationship with Ian, like, I love him. Somebody's gonna dig me out of this hole. Okay, pull me out of this hole. No, but like, even just being in a relationship with, honestly, like, who I think is the greatest man ever, who's like perfect for me, and I love him. We both are imperfect, and we've seen parts of each other that is not perfect since we've been married. And like, that's with following the Lord and with loving each other and loving the people in our lives. So just saying, like, if they're not meeting your standards before you start dating them, like, they're definitely not going to meet your standards later in life.
And you have to ask yourself, why are they not willing to meet you?
Yeah.
What's the purpose of them not being willing to meet you there?
Yes.
Yeah, also, one thing to add to that is like, thank you. It's okay to like people. Like, it's okay to like people and not date them. It's hard to like someone and not date them, but like Brittany said, don't be led by your feelings. Seek out wisdom, seek out the Lord in that. But it's like, liking someone is not a sin. Having a crush on someone is okay. But it's just when you allow that to consume your thoughts and not seek out wisdom. Yes.
Through your dating life, your dating family, did you ever like feel any attraction to someone else?
It's getting very personal.
Actually, can we? I mean,
Let's-
you can answer if you want to, but I do want to keep going.
Yeah, let's keep moving on to the question.
Because we're gonna be able to answer the questions in here better than we can. Pop.
Like questions were
The answer is probably yes, because we were just dating. There's no like, I'm answering for you. I think like oftentimes we blow dating relationships out of proportion, and like you are committed to that person. However, you're in a season of life where you're getting to know them. Like, that's what dating is, you know? It's not engagement. It's not marriage. It's different, you know? So
Dating is temporary.
it's temporary. It's either going to become marriage or you're going to break up, you know?
And so you shouldn't expect yourself to be perfect and not have any problems. Again, it's a feeling. What do you do with those feelings? Are they meant to be acted upon or not acted upon? They don't have to be acted upon.
And it is good to practice commitment.
Yeah.
Because if you're not practicing commitment, then you got an issue too. But to be attracted to someone else, now what do I do with that? You know, okay, I'm committed to this person in this dating relationship, so I'm gonna let that go. Okay, let's keep going.
I want to honor my parents, but don't want to do everything they say because I want to have my own independent beliefs. What's the balance between honor and independence, and how does that change with age?
That's really good. So, independence in and of itself is not a virtue. Let me say that again.
Period.
Independence in and of itself is not actually a virtue. So I think where this question is going is I really want to own the beliefs that I've grown up with, and that's great. It's like you gotta have ownership of your faith, of your boundaries, of all of those things that have been built into you over the years. But if you look at this from the perspective of Adam and Eve in the garden, what did they eat from the tree of? The knowledge of good and evil. Now, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, that was I want to know what's right and good apart from the Lord. That was what was different.
You don't want to depend on the Lord and what's right.
That was all about independence. That was all about, I want to find my own way. I want to make my own way in the world. I know he told me this, but I want to know what's right and wrong for me. And so, now, is your mom and dad, are they God? No. But they do represent an aspect of God in your life. That's why he's called God the Father. Right? I mean, he didn't just make that up because, I don't know, let's call him something you can understand. I'm God the Father. No, it's like your father is a representation of God in your life. And so to pull away from honoring your parents in that is kind of along those same lines. And then, we were talking a lot about this because this is a hard subject for me, and I didn't think I handled it really well with Keegan, especially, and with Abby growing up. It was hard because I kind of had a mentality of, this is the way things are, this is the way things should be, you follow me, and you do what I tell you to do as a dad, And
Not because I'm mean, but because I know what's best.
I know.
Why not do it my way?
And the reality is I did 99% of the time probably know, okay, 80% of the time, what was going to be best for him. In the boundaries that I was setting for him, they were probably the best boundaries that I could set. But relationally, communication-wise, I didn't always do the best, And so walking that out to me is the dance. It's like, how do you walk out honor? How does a parent walk out honor with their son? How does a son walk out honor with their parent? That's where the beauty, I think, of it all is. But I just want to say, when you are choosing to honor a boundary that your parents have set, you are exercising a choice. And I think growing up in a Christian home where boundaries are super clear, and by that I mean super defined and seem hard at times, it can seem like you don't have a choice. But I just want to encourage you that in those places, you are choosing. You're saying, I choose honor. I choose this boundary, and you're making a solid choice in and of yourself. Obviously, there's nuances to work out in that, but it is an independence of sorts.
And I want to say, on a practical note, when Keegan was 17, part of how we, I think I've said this before, your parents are still learning how to be parents, especially if you're the oldest, but even not, if you're the second or the third, because you're different than your brothers and sisters. You're different. So every time, parenting, we're figuring it out as we go because there is no manual for you. There's a manual for what's generally good and right, but it's hard. And so even with Keegan, when he was 17, we figured out how to honor. We figured out this honor relationship at a whole nother level because we hit conflict. We hit independence. We hit hiddenness. We hit up against all these things. But that's when we actually started honoring each other. It wasn't when everything was perfect and there weren't problems. It was when there was problems and we had to learn how to work through them. And he was bringing his stuff to us and we were saying, okay, how do we walk this out? And when he had a difference of opinion and even made some different choices than what we would have liked for him to make, but we walked through those choices with him and said, that's not what we think is best, but we're still with you in it. And that changed something in our lives. It changed something in our parenting, and it changed something in our relationship. And I believe that was actually a marking time for him. And as far as what his real independence was actually coming into a greater level of honor with us through communication, through relating. Like, it took a lot of communication, a lot of relating. It wasn't always agreeing, but it wasn't disrespectful either. So.
Let's jump to 8.
Okay. Well, I actually do not have sex before marriage. It is told a lot not to do it, but I still don't really know why. What happens when you do?
Okay, I'll talk first. Okay, the Bible actually, that talks about, like, you probably even heard the phrase, even the world uses it, the two shall become one, Well, that's like a real thing, and it's literal, even though you're still two people. You are being joined as one when you have sex with somebody. Sex is not a casual thing. It's not something that is flippant, and you're not unaffected by it. No matter what people tell you, if they say they're unaffected by it, they're lying. They're lying to themselves, and they're lying to you. And so, like, you guys have probably heard the term soul ties. How many of you have heard the term soul ties? Okay, how many of you think you know what that means? And how many of you don't know what it means or would like to really understand it? Okay, so, like, I mean, I don't have to like fully define soul ties, but it's like, simply said, it's a person, the person that you have sex with gets stuck in your head and in your heart, in your emotions. So we are body, soul, and spirit together. We're not three separate. We're not body, soul, and spirit. We are a body, soul, and spirit all together as one. And you are affected. Sex is a body, soul, and spirit action, okay? And so it's in your emotions, in your mind, in your soul, okay? Now, does that mean there's no coming back? Absolutely not. What is the power of the blood strong enough to help and to redeem? Yes. Does the power of the blood and forgiveness erase all consequences of sin? If you have sex and somebody gets pregnant and they have a baby, but that person gets forgiveness, does that baby disappear? No. If you have sex and get a venereal disease, does that disease go away? Like, you're making faces, but like, that's real stuff, guys. It's gross, but it's real. It's like, it's just stuff you have to deal with. Now, can the Lord redeem your mind? Yes. Can he redeem your body? Yes. He can do anything. But I'm just wanting you to think about, like, why does the church make such a big deal out of sexual sins? And I would say it's because nobody else is. There is no support in our culture for purity. There's no pressure from the world to stay pure. There's no pressure to not move in with people that you love, to not have sex with 3 different people in 1 week. There's no pressure to not do that. The pressure is actually there to do it, and the support is there to do it, and the logic and the reasoning is all there, and it's all lies, okay? It's not a fulfilling life. People are empty and hurting that are living that way. And the reason why they're going from person to person is because they're looking to be loved. And with Jesus, and with a relationship with Jesus and God the Father, we have access to love. It's the woman at the well. If you're thirsty, drink of me. You will not thirst again. That's where it's very different. Like the world says, go look for water somewhere. Go look for water anywhere. You're really thirsty. And that's not going to fulfill you ever. Jesus will fulfill you. So, there's specifically with sex, there are, like I was saying, it's body, soul, and spirit. Obviously your body's involved because it's sex. But your brain, what you might not know is there are things that are happening inside of your brain
There's actually chemical reactions and neural pathways that you're developing in your brain through the act of sex. And through the act of sex, but also other sexual pleasures and things that you do, you're actually imprinting, whether it's a picture that you're looking at, whether it's a person that you're with, you're actually imprinting that on your brain. And the chemical reactions that are happening in your brain are actually stronger than the addiction to heroin. Like that addiction to whether it's pornography, whether it's the act of sex, it can actually pull on you stronger than a heroin addiction. And so, it's a big deal, And again, the Lord redeems it all, right? We're not running around scared, but like Kim said, there's nothing in the world, and that's why I think the church does make a big deal of it. There's no law against having premarital sex. There's no law against infidelity, There's laws against murder, there's laws against stealing, there's laws against, so many things that are in the Bible that are good or moral things for us to do, but our country doesn't have any law against that. And so the church is kind of the last stand of morality, in that place. So, yeah.
That was so good. Can we just Yes, thank you guys so much. It's so awesome and so true. It's a really powerful thing that the Lord created. And I think also even on just a relational level, how much do you think it would mean to have someone in your life that would wait for you for that, And it's I'm not talking about people that maybe messed up before they met you or didn't believe the same things, but you're in a relationship with someone and you're able to wait until you're married. How much does that say about their love for you, that they will take the time and deprive themselves of something that could be enjoyable, that they could go anywhere else and find. But they care so much for you and the person that God made you to be that they will wait until they marry you with no promise of even marrying you. That is powerful. The trust that forms in a relationship, the foundation that it lays, is just so powerful. I know I can trust Keegan because he respected my boundaries through our relationship, and that was just such that's something that you only have one time of dating in your relationship. So to just be able to see to that line where it's I'm gonna wait till I marry you to do this, it's just really powerful. Yeah.
Well, guys, we've kind of hit the end of our time here. Yeah.
It goes fast. And we went extra long tonight and set ahead of time to not have small groups and everything, so we can have longer. But you guys asked some seriously great questions. You didn't ask fluff, and it really great. And we don't have a schedule yet as to when we're coming back. We probably actually will come back the rest of this year. Before the end of the year because of holidays and all that. But,
Yeah.
So anyway, when we do, we will send out another thing for questions if we're gonna do it this way, or we'll see what the Lord wants to do.
We're just finished answering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We really got through a lot though. We really got through a lot.
Also, I did want to say, if you guys do have other questions that are you feel are urgent and you need answered, you're welcome to email Jason at convergencechurch.com and Kim at convergencechurch.com. And please do email both of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or if you're a girl, email Kim. If you're a guy, email me. Let's use the boundaries that we talked about tonight. Yes.
I do have one last thing I want to share.
Okay.
So in a relationship, say, yes, I really felt like you guys said we should start dating each other. We shouldn't talk through those boundaries first, or we just lay down your boundaries and just like, you know what I mean?
No, you definitely should talk about boundaries prior to starting a date. Yeah, it's all about communication. Definitely talk about boundaries, and I would encourage you to talk about them in the context of with the parents, with both parents. When Levi and Molly started dating, that's what we did. We sat down with the birth parents. We all talked about it together, and we've continued.
Totally unusual. Like,
Right.
But we were friends first. So, so we laid that all out with them.
Yeah, but I mean, when that's an option, that's awesome. At least sit down with a set of parents and talk about it.
Yeah,
For sure.
one set of parents, or you talk with your parents, like, like communication is super important. Ahead of time is even better because it's a lot easier to not start something
Yeah.
than to stop something after you start.
Yeah, they pulled back from kissing, and that's amazing, and it's a great testimony that it can happen. But I will say it's hard.
We didn't have a boundary for that.
Yeah.
We hadn't set one yet, and then we were like, oh, that's actually something we should probably not do right now.
Yeah.
So why? Why?
You find out. Part 2. Find out next time. If you guys want to ask questions, hang on, Allison. It is, except we're missing like 5. So if you want to ask more questions, send it in that thing. I'll post the link in tonight on our group chat. Yeah. I wish we could move to WhatsApp, but it's okay. Yeah. Thank you guys, Mom and Dad.